Good morning. Thank you for joining us online for chapel. Let's worship the Lord together. Water you turn into wine. Open the eyes of the blind. There's no one like you. None like you. Into the darkness you shine. Out of the ashes we rise. There's no one like you. None like you. Sing it with me. Our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher. God, you are higher than any other. Our God's a healer. Our God is healer. He's awesome in power. Our God. Our God is greater. Say, our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer. Awesome in power. Awesome in power. Our God. Our God. And if our God is for us, and if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what could stand against? And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what could stand against? And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what could stand against? And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what could stand There's no God like Jehovah. There's no God like Jehovah. There's no God like Jehovah. There's no God like. Sing it out, singers. There's no God like Jehovah. 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 How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? And all will see how great is our God.
Good morning, and thank you, Reverend Simpson, for the opportunity to share my dream as part of this Dream Week. And thank you for the opportunity and invitation to come home to Wesley, where I sang for many years with the Voices of Western as a student here, and more recently as the adopted mom of the Voices. Thank you. In February 2020, I was promoted to the City of Kalamazoo's first Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. After working for the city for over 9 years, I was honored and humbled to hold this inaugural position. The vision for this position is to set the stage for transformational change, starting with an organizational diversity, equity, and inclusion assessment. This assessment will show us where we are as an agency so we can plan on how to build upon our strengths, strengthen our weaknesses, and fill in our gaps. My goal is to have the concepts of diversity, equity, and inclusion become a part of the very culture of our organization. This culture that will be reflected in how we work together internally and how our external work connects with and impacts our community. I must mention the challenging season that I stepped into with this position. I started 3 weeks before we went into a quarantine. First challenge. In this challenging environment came the tragic murder of George Floyd and the subsequent social unrest. More challenges. But what we learned from this time is the importance of a focus for us on the issues of race and justice. And we were glad that we started this focus before the challenges started. While this time has been very difficult for the city and difficult for this position, it has allowed me an opportunity to be very open and honest about issues of race and the diversity in our organization. It is the thought of being open and honest about issues of race that I often think about Dr. King and his legacy that paved the way for where I sit today. As I read Dr. King's speech, I Have a Dream, I reflected that while we're in the same place in many ways today as a people, we are in very different places as individuals. In 1963, you did not see Blacks in boardrooms of traditional institutions, committee rooms, manager's office. It was uncommon if we were be running cities, states, mainstream organization, and just an unbelievable dream that we would ever be the president or vice president of this amazing country. Where we are sitting today, where I am sitting today, is progress on the road of Dr. King's dream being fulfilled. But now it is our time to dream and act. What is your dream of equity in that seat you sit in? How are you dreaming for a better tomorrow for the generation that is following you? There is no one absolute perfect way to transform systems for social justice. We have to be courageous to follow the path that works for us in the situations we find ourselves in. As Dr. King said, there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe nor politic nor popular, but he must take it because his conscience tells him it is right. I understand and am very aware that my actions are not always perceived as socially and or politically correct, that my words are not always perceived and heard as socially and or politically correct. But I can't allow the response of the naysayers or my own times of insecurity to keep me from following through on the work set for me, the work that my conscience tells me is right. So, like Dr. King said, those who hoped that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. Many of us may seem to have become quiet, but we are practicing patient urgency. We are watchful because we refuse to accept transactions. We are leaning into transformation. What do I mean like by this? Transactions are resolutions about or for people of color without action steps backed by manpower and funding to bring those resolutions to fruition. A transaction is a COVID relief check without changing the system that caused people of color to be more impacted by COVID financially. A transaction is temporary relief for student loans. Instead of changing the systems that require low income students to get loans, knowing that a large majority of them will end up in low paying service industry positions, unable to thrive and make those payments. A transaction is building low income housing for rent instead of looking at the banks who won't provide financing and mortgages to blacks so they can become homeowners. Accepting transaction is like throwing a dog a bone that hasn't eaten in a week and expecting them to take it and be happy. Let's refuse the bones of transactions. If you are sitting in a seat of influence in your industry, in your field, in your organization, dream transformation, vision systemic change. Don't worry that your work may not be noticed or if that's not an immediate change. Stand firm in the fact that the work you are doing is setting the very foundation for transaction. And while I can't say, like Dr. King, that I have been to the mountaintop because I haven't, but I can say I know and serve the God who created that mountaintop. And that God that created that mountaintop is the one who gave me the dream that I'm working for and is working in me to live out that dream. So I can say, like Dr. King said, I just want to do God's will. So I will keep dreaming and working. And I encourage you to dream and work. Because if we are all dreaming and working, our dreams together, we will experience transformation. God bless you all.